Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Leader Lab. This is Leadership Shorts. Quick thoughts to help you level up your leadership. My name is Chad Wright, the founder of Forward Partners. I'm here with Emily Deal, our chief quote officer. She's got a quote for us today.
I do.
And I'm so excited about it because it's from one of my favorite people and one of our future podcast guests. Like we're manifesting this.
Yes.
Just like Dwayne
Or
Rock
you
Johnson
could go on hers.
and
We could
Dolly
go on
Parton.
hers. Yeah.
Ooh, that would be fun. That's how we'll know we've really made it when we get an invite to be on that podcast. All right, hit us with it.
All right, you ready? It takes courage to say yes to rest and play in a culture where exhaustion is seen as a status symbol.
From
Brene Brown.
Dr. Brene Brown.
Brene Brown.
MD. I don't think she's an MD. I don't know how that works, actually.
I don't think she's
Is that bad? I don't know how that MD doctor thing works.
You are a 5. Ding, ding, ding. You should know.
So, yeah, I would see that as bad. Ding, ding. We talked Enneagram. I love that quote that it takes rest. It takes courage to see rest and play and to do that and embrace that and experience that in a culture that doesn't see it as that.
Yeah,
right?
We don't necessarily see rest as productive because we think it's just us, being lazy or, doing whatever.
And so I think because of that, there's pressure to just always be productive, always be moving, always be checking things off.
Or embarrassed if you have something else scheduled that's not the most productive thing.
Yes. Okay, here's a good example of this. I was working with a client one time, and she had opened her schedule up to the team to see, right? And on there she was going on a field trip with her kid. That's a great thing. Like going to be a parent in the middle of the day, going to do that. And yet she was like, oh my gosh, they're going to see that I'm going on a field trip to the zoo with my kid.
Yeah.
And I asked him, I said, hey, would you want your employee feeling bad if that was on their calendar? I said, absolutely not. And so there's this standard we place of like, I'm embarrassed by that because it doesn't look productive.
Yeah.
But we've talked about, I think even in the last episode, we talked about the idea that your best ideas are not going to happen when you're in front of a computer.
Right.
And so it is creating margin and space to embrace rest.
Yeah.
As the most productive thing we can do. Right?
I think it's another middle ground, right?
Yeah.
You just got to mix it in and have the ability to tasks.
Yeah, task. We're going to task.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Task lists are important.
Yeah.
But also taking the time to get the rest you need to energize and to be able to bring back to what you're doing.
There's a real practical math to it almost.
Yeah.
Like, I've got this much to get done. Here's my capacity. I can increase my capacity with rest, but if I don't, I'm drawing from nothing. And that's where burnout happens. That's where we break.
Yeah.
And so it's just that intentionality of saying, no, this is the most productive thing I can do right now. And it's hard for people to embrace, but once that mindset shift happens, once people are able to go, you know what, the most productive thing I can do for my leadership, for my life, for my people is to rest.
Invest in yourself so you can invest in them.
Exactly. It starts to become the priority. It starts to be the thing that goes on the calendar first.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really what it should be. Like our rest, our recovery, our restoration should be the first thing that goes on our calendar. And then everything else flows around.
Yeah.
Because if we're exhausted, nothing else that's on the calendar will happen the way we want it to happen.
Yeah. And I think the one I struggle with is the exhaustion isn't always solved with sleep. That rest does not necessarily mean you need to go take a nap or you need to get more hours sleep at night, which is also important.
It is important. We do need sleep.
Right.
But that's not the only. It's funny how often I'll ask people if they're getting any rest, and that's the first thing they go to. Oh, yeah, I sleep fine.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's not just sleep. It's do you have productive rest?
Yeah. What's restored that energy?
Yes,
what's giving you that life? Yeah.
And that's really what our definition is. What brings life back to you?
Yeah.
And so when you have those rest times, are you courageous enough to embrace that rest time and say, you know what, I am only doing things right now that bring life back to me? Yeah. Which again goes back to an episode a couple episodes ago where we talked about boundaries, right? If we don't set healthy boundaries around when we rest, we're probably not going to do it.
Yeah. Are you really resting if your phone is telling you all the things that you're missing or that you should be working on? Or when you do take a vacation, if you're actually just checking in every couple hours with your team, like,
you're not
it's
really,
not always the most productive rest.
Which means you're not serving them the way you could.
Yeah.
You're failing them, really, is what you're doing. And so I think that I love this idea that we have to change how we think about rest to see it as productive. And that takes courage. It really does. And then we have to be very intentional about how we rest and what those rhythms are.
Yeah, I think that's that rest and play in a culture where exhaustion. Yeah. I think the culture aspect of it is everyone's just telling you constantly, like, this is not the most. Yeah. We're telling you different.
Well, part of how, when we talk about our definition of healthy leadership, are you oriented towards health spiritually, emotionally, physically? Mm-hmm. We have questions for each one of those to help people understand, are they actually oriented in the right direction?
Right.
For physical health, the question is, are you modeling good rest and healthy rhythms? Mm-hmm. We have to model it for our people to say it is okay to disconnect. It is a good thing to disconnect.
The world will keep spinning. That's one way CO2.
That's what we say all the time, right? The world will spin just fine without you.
Yeah.
We need to understand that, because that then gives us the rhythms to be able to rest and the freedom to rest.
And don't see it as the fact that you're not needed in that way. It's because you've done the work to set your team up for success. Yeah. So that when you come back, you can have new ideas and a refreshed look to keep going.
It's funny. It's partially that, and it's partially that you are needed.
Yeah.
We are so important as leaders. Our role and our responsibility is so wildly important that we have to be rested. Right. We don't have another choice. We're not living up to that responsibility if we're not.
Yeah.
But in order to do that, we have to build teams that enable us to disconnect. Because that's the other thing I see is leaders that go, well, I can't. Well, it's because we haven't built the system to allow it. And so you really have to be intentional about that to be able to take off and start to embrace this. But it's funny whenever I'm on a podcast or some other thing, YouTube show or whatever, inevitably one of the questions is, okay, what's the one thing every leader needs to know? Honestly, I think rest might be it. Like, I think it's as close to a silver bullet as you will ever get for leadership is rest. And that's something we all need to embrace. We need to be courageous like Dr. Brene Brown, not MD, I don't think.
We just our research.
Brene, will you reach out and let us know, please?
Fact check our podcast.
Please fact check our podcast by appearing on our podcast. We will create a whole podcast just for you.
That's what this entire podcast is about now.
If anybody knows Dr. Brown, please send this to her. I have no shame in asking. All right, Emily, if anyone wants to send us questions, if they want to send us thoughts, if they want to
Brene
send
Brown's
us
contact information,
connections to Brene Brown or Dwayne The Rock Johnson or Dolly Parton. Our list is getting longer. If anyone wants to send us anything, where do they send it to?
lab@forwardpartners.net.
lab@forwardpartners.net. And if they want to follow on social and see all the things we're learning and doing,
at Forward Partner.
At Forward Partner. If you're looking to level up your leadership, thank you for listening to this, but also follow all the things we're doing because we're dedicated to giving away everything that we're learning. Emily, thank you once again for this. Our chief, are you podcast officer this time? I can't remember.
I think that's what you said.
Can't keep it straight. Danny, thank you for producing. Thank you, Wilco Workspaces, for partnering with us on this. We will see you in the Leader Lab next time for Leadership Shorts. Have a great week.
Yeah.
It's fun recording these ahead of time. We have no idea when this is going to go out. Have a great rest of your week.